you were discussing a little bit about the difference between, cloud, but then saying it was really more software driven. So curious, sir, I know that you do have a little background on the SaaS side. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. I'm going to jump into our vendor trends here a little bit and break it up into enterprise applications and talk about where, where you're spending your IT futures, where you're aligning with the SaaS providers. Obviously, the big three still remain Salesforce, ServiceNow, and Workday. It doesn't really matter how we cut it, but they generally remain the largest. Do you have any experience with those, sir? Are you utilizing them currently? Any evaluation that you could offer your peers on these names?
Sure. ServiceNow, of course, is a big part of our digital and online environment. ServiceNow, we actually just migrated from Remedy to ServiceNow 2 years ago as the global ticketing system. And ServiceNow being such a powerful application is just ongoing development. We're just starting to tap into the automation capabilities,
right,
and things like that. The third one, I didn't recognize that you had mentioned, but the other largest SaaS provider we utilize is Microsoft. Outlook, Teams, all of that is now software as a service. All of Microsoft Office is software as a service. You no longer have any. I don't even think you can get that on your home PC anymore. I think to have Office, you have to sign up for a subscription now.
You do, yeah. And it's funny, we have it broken down into cloud, and I've had people say before the only reason Microsoft caught up to Amazon as quickly as they did in the cloud was truly because it was really a SaaS. It was just them hosting the applications of 365. It wasn't really as an infrastructure as a service as AWS was. And I've heard that debate many, many times that if we had Microsoft simply as an enterprise apps or a SaaS name, that it would be right up here top left with ServiceNow, Workday, and Salesforce.
Right. Now, early in the presentation, you gave away my longevity in the industry. But, there's pros and cons to SaaS. Obviously, it eliminates the need for in-house resources that's typically supported by whatever service provider is supporting and managing your cloud environment, or Microsoft itself, for example, or ServiceNow. Being an older timer, I'm not a big fan of it, because right off the bat, performance is always an issue. To get the highest speed and best performance, you have to go for their gold or platinum contracts, which are extremely expensive. You don't always have a lot of say as to the availability when they do maintenance. You would assume that it's a full HA or failover environment, and maintenance should be transparent to you, which majority of times it is, but issues are not. I mean, how often do we see, on the news that Amazon is down, half the world can't buy their trinkets off the website or whatever. To me, that's the two biggest drawbacks to software as a service is performance and control. You just really don't have any control. When they say they're upgrading, and whatever APIs you may have connected, you don't really have a choice but stop what you're doing and get everything updated so it's compatible. On the flip side of that, if you look at it from, we'll use the term a board perspective, it's much easier to manage. There's no employees, there's no hardware contracts or maintenance. You don't have to be concerned about upgrades or patching. In today's world, with security being such a huge issue, I can't even tell you how much time our organization spends on security and patching. I would have to say, in my department on the infrastructure side, patching and security updates alone are probably between 30 and 35% of our overall time utilization right now. Hopefully that'll get better, but it's a huge issue. Patching is a huge challenge because it requires reboot of the system. And, here we go again. The applications people don't want to pay for a mirrored or an HA environment. So when you have a cluster, hopefully you can do one at a time, but in a lot of cases with a lot of the applications, their primary server needs to be patched. They don't have a redundant production server, so you need downtime. And our organization is moving more and more to a 24/7 model, especially with the retail websites and being a global organization with different time zones, and trying to find a time when your production website or application is not going to be available so that you can apply security patches is extremely challenging.
There's a lot there to unpack, but very insightful, particularly with the COVID impact. We've seen customer experience become a huge driver for consumer retail, and that 24/7 model was not something that was really on the table just 2 years ago. But a lot there. So go ahead.
Yeah, especially not in retail.
Right.
But to your point, when you start to go to a cloud-based model with a lot of SaaS involved, and you're talking a global organization, now you have time zones to take into consideration and all of that. It's challenging.